You are the sun, why you have to project light to see, and what that means about who you are. A plain language broadcast on the strange fact that you have to shine in order to see, on why each of us is looking at the same reality from a different angle and seeing something slightly different, and on what dissolves when you notice this. I want to tell you something that came to me this weekend on a walk by the Columbia River with my family. And that crystallized while we were out eating dinner together afterward. It has been sitting with me since, and the more I sit with it, the more it rearranges things. You have spent your whole life moving through what looks like a stable, solid world. Trees, sky, water, people, walls, cars, food, and faces. You move through it, and as you move, what you see changes. You walk down a path, and the trees on your left become the trees behind you. You turn your head, and a new piece of the world comes into view. Most of your life, you have probably held a quiet picture of how this works. The picture goes something like this. There is a world out there full of objects that exists independently of me, and light bounces off those objects, and the light reaches my eyes, and my eyes are like little cameras taking pictures of what is out there. When you move, you get a new picture because you are now at a new position and different light is reaching your eyes. What I want you to sit with is this. That picture is not wrong exactly, but it is missing something so big that once you see what is missing, the whole experience of being alive looks different. Stay with me. This is going to clarify a lot. The thing that has been missing from your picture of seeing. Here is the thing nobody tells you, even though it has been visible in research literature for decades. Your eye is not a camera. A camera is a passive device. Light arrives at it from the outside, and a sensor records what arrived. The camera does not contribute anything to the scene, it just receives. Your eye does not work that way. Your eye is active. Three things tell us this, and once you see them, you cannot unsee them. No pun intended. First, if you hold your eye perfectly still, really perfectly still, which can be done in a laboratory, the image in front of you fades. Within seconds, what you were looking at becomes gray and disappears. You stop seeing it. This has been known since the 1950s. The way the eye keeps the image from fading is by constantly making tiny, almost invisible movements called microsaccades. You cannot see without the eye moving. The passive camera picture cannot explain this. A passive camera does not need to wiggle to record what is in front of it. Second, your visual cortex, the part of your brain that processes sight, uses an enormous amount of energy. Some of the highest energy use in your whole body. Far more energy than a passive receiver would need. If your eye were just collecting light, why would the system burn so much fuel? Where is the energy going? Third, when you move through space, when you walk down a path, turn your head, drive a car, the new view of the world arrives in your awareness instantly. There is no perceptible delay, but light travels at a finite speed. If you were really just receiving photons that bounced off objects, every step you take should produce a tiny lag while new photons travel from their new positions to your eye. You do not experience any lag. The new view is just there, the moment you arrive at the new position. Each of these three things is small on its own. Together they are pointing at something much bigger. You are not just receiving light, you are also projecting it. Your eye is the aperture, the opening, of a beam of attention, energy, looking that goes outward from you into the world. When you turn your gaze towards something, you are not just opening yourself to receive what is there, you are reaching out and touching it with a beam of looking that comes from inside you. What returns to you, what you experience as seeing, is the response of the world to your reaching. The microsaccades are the beam moving, scanning, sweeping. The energy use is the cost of projecting the beam. The instant arrival of new views when you move is because the world already contains what you would see from every position. Your projection beam, at its new angle, simply retrieves a different view of the same underlying scene. You are not waiting for light to arrive, you are illuminating what was already there. What this means about how the world is put together. If your eye is projecting and the world is responding, then the world is not just a collection of objects sitting in space waiting for cameras to record them. The world is something encoded, like a hologram, that can be illuminated and read out from different angles. A hologram, if you have ever seen one, has a strange property. The whole image is recorded everywhere on the holographic film. If you cut the film in half, you do not get two half images. You get two complete images at slightly reduced resolution. Every part of the film contains the whole, and depending on what angle you shine your reference light through it, you see a different view of the same recorded scene. This is what the world is doing. Every part of reality contains, in some encoded form, information about every other part. When you stand in a particular place and look in a particular direction, your projection beam retrieves the view that was encoded for that position and that angle. When you move and look from a new position, your beam retrieves a different view of the same encoded reality. Reality is one encoded thing. What you see is your local reading of it. This sounds strange the first time you hear it, but it explains everything. It explains why two people standing in the same spot and looking at the same thing report seeing almost the same thing. They are reading the same encoded reality with very similar projection beams. It explains why they don't report seeing exactly the same thing. Each person's beam projects from a slightly different position, with slightly different qualities, and retrieves a slightly different rendering. That's called qualia. It explains why everyone agrees that, say, the tree is there, the encoding of the tree is shared, while everyone disagrees about whether the tree is beautiful or what it reminds them of or what color exactly its leaves are at sunset. The rendering varies with the projector. You are a perspective on the one thing. This is the part that I sat with through dinner and could not stop sitting with. Each of us is a different reference beam looking at the same reality. The reality is one. There is one encoded substrate, one shared field, one underlying what is. It is the same for everyone. It exists whether anyone is looking or not. But it can only be experienced from a particular position, through a particular projection. And each of us is a particular position with a particular projection. Each of us is a unique angle on the same single thing. This rearranges a lot. For centuries, philosophy and religion have argued about whether reality is out there, objective, independent of mind, or in here, subjective, constructed by mind. One side says, the world is real, your experience is just a reflection of it. The other side says, your experience is real, the quote world is a construction inside your mind. People have been arguing this for 400 years, and the argument has not resolved because both sides are pointing at something true and missing the bigger structure. Reality is both. The encoded substrate is out there, objectively, independently, the same for everyone. And the rendering you experience is in here, uniquely, prospectively, yours alone, produced by your specific projection beam, reading the substrate from your specific angle. These are not two competing accounts of reality. They are two halves of one operation. The substrate is objective. The rendering is subjective. Both are necessary. Both are real. Neither is more fundamental than the other. The whole problem was that we have been treating them as two different kinds of things when they are two roles of one thing. When you look at a sunset, the sunset is out there. The photons, the atmosphere, the angle of the sun, the encoded substrate at your position. The beauty of the sunset, the specific gold, pink, violet your eyes and brain make of it, the feeling it gives you, that is in here. The rendering through your projection. Both are real. The person standing next to you sees a different sunset, slightly. Not because either of you is wrong, because each of you is reading the same encoded reality from a slightly different position with slightly different beams. The hard problem dissolves. There is a problem in philosophy called the hard problem of consciousness. It has been the central unsolved problem in philosophy of mind for 30 years. It goes like this. We can describe the brain in third-person physical terms: neurons firing, signals propagating, information being processed. But why is there something it is like to have these processes happening? Why isn't your brain just functioning in the dark with no inner experience attached? Where does the what it is like come from? Philosophers and neuroscientists have produced many sophisticated answers, none of which everyone accepts. The reason they cannot agree, I think, is that the question is framed wrong. The question assumes that third-person physical reality and first-person experience are two different kinds of things, and that we need to explain how the first kind produces the second. But they are not two different kinds of things. They are two access points to one operation. Third-person description has access to the encoded substrate, the shared objective layer that all observers can converge on, and that science describes successfully. First-person experience has access to the rendering, the local perspectival illumination of that substrate through your specific projection. There is no gap between them that needs to be bridged. The third person picks out one role, the first person picks out the other role. They are the same operation viewed from its two ends. Once you see this, the explanatory gap stops being mysterious. It is just the natural difference between describing the encoding, which everyone can agree on, and being the projection, which only you can do from your position. The hard problem is not solved by adding new entities or new physics. It is solved by noticing that the framing was treating one operation as if it were two. Why you, specifically, are the sun. This is the part I want to be most careful with because it sounds like a metaphor, and it is not. The sun in our sky illuminates the world so that all of us can see. Without the sun, no light hits the things around us. No information flows through the atmosphere. No shared scene exists. Sorry, I just got a call. Give me a second. The sun in our sky illuminates the world so that all of us can see. Without the sun, no light hits the things around us. No information flows through the atmosphere. No shared scene exists. The sun is the reference beam at planetary scale. It illuminates the substrate so that the biosphere can collectively render its shared world. Each of us individually is the same thing at a smaller scale. Your eye, your attention, your looking, these are the reference beam at personal scale. You illuminate the substrate so that you can render your local world. Without your projection, no rendering for you. The same architecture, same operation, just at different scales. This is why so many traditions in so many languages have used the same word root for soul. Sun and sun. S-U-N-S-O-N. S-O-U-L. Also soul. S-O-L. Sale, Surya, Sunne. The traditions that gave us these words noticed something that modern languages have mostly stopped noticing. What you are at the personal level is what the sun is at the planetary level. You are a small sun. The sun is a big you. The architecture is one. Mystics across cultures have described, in their direct experience, seeing themselves as light, as a beam of awareness, as a candle, as a torch, as a radiant point. They are not making it up. They are not speaking metaphorically. They are reporting what they directly perceived during moments when they noticed their own projection beam. You are doing that projection every moment you are looking. You just have not usually noticed. When tradition speaks of the light within, of the inner sun, of being a child of the light, this is what they are pointing at. The light is real. It is what you project to see. It is structurally the same thing as the sun, scaled to you. You are the sun of your own world. There is no other sun of your world. You are it. And every other person you have ever met is the sun of their world. Simultaneously, in continuous parallel, projecting and reading the same encoded reality from their unique position. We are all suns. We are looking at the same sun-illuminated reality. We are each a perspective on it. We are each in our own local rendering what the sun is in the planetary rendering. The heart is the engine of your sun. There is one more piece I want you to sit with because it is the most There is one more piece I want you to sit with because it is the part most people miss, and it is the part that explains why so much of the rest of this matters in your actual day-to-day life. You probably think your eyes are the most important organ for seeing. They are not. They are the aperture, the opening through which the beam goes out and the response comes back. The thing that generates the coherent beam in the first place is somewhere else. It is your heart. This sounds strange the first time you hear it, but the evidence has been sitting in plain sight for decades. The heart generates the largest electromagnetic field in your body, about 60 times stronger than the field your brain generates. This is not folklore. It is measurable with sensitive instruments. The field extends out from your body and can be detected several feet away. For decades, biology has treated this field as a byproduct. Interesting but not important, just a side effect of the heart pumping. What if it is not a byproduct? What if the heart's electromagnetic field is the primary coherent signal your body broadcasts, and your eyes are the directional aperture that shapes what your body is already projecting? If that is right, then several things you already know become explainable in a new way. Why heart coherence research keeps producing surprising results. For 30 years, researchers, most notably the HeartMath Institute, have been measuring something called heart rate variability, or HRV, the way your heartbeat changes its timing from beat to beat. High HRV in a smooth sinusoidal pattern correlates with better cognitive performance, emotional regulation, immune function, and longevity. People in coherent HRV states make better decisions, see more clearly, recover from stress faster, and feel better. The mainstream model treats this as the heart and brain communicate via the vagus nerve, which is partly true, but leaves out the bigger picture. The bigger picture, when your heart is coherent, the coherent beam you project to perceive the world is coherent. When your heart is decoherent, your projection beam is decoherent, narrowed, fractured, distorted, and you literally see less and less accurately. Why long-term couples synchronize their heartbeats? Couples who have been together for decades develop measurably correlated HRV patterns. Mothers and infants in skin-to-skin contact synchronize cardiac and respiratory rhythms within minutes. People in deep conversation show HRV correlation. Mainstream biology has documented all of this and does not quite know what to do with it. The reference beam reading, you are calibrating your projection beam to someone else's. Two people in sustained close contact tune their projection beams to a shared rhythm, and the rendering they produce together becomes more coordinated than either could produce alone. This is what love does at the biological layer. It is not poetic, it is operational. Why fear narrows your perception? When you are afraid, you do not see well. Your visual field tightens. You miss things in your peripheral vision. You stop being able to notice context, nuance, soft signals from people around you. Mainstream psychology calls this attentional narrowing under threat and leaves it there. The reference beam reading goes deeper. Fear collapses your cardiac coherence first, which collapses your projection beam, which narrows the rendering you retrieve. This is why you cannot think your way out of fear in the moment. By the time the perceptual narrowing has happened, the engine that drives the beam has already lost its rhythm. The fastest way out is not cognitive. It is to restore the cardiac coherence through breath, presence, or contact with someone whose heart is steadier than yours. Why broken heart is a real clinical condition. There's a documented medical phenomenon called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, sometimes called broken heart syndrome. Acute psychological loss, death of a spouse, betrayal, severe shock can cause the left ventricle of the heart to literally change shape, balloon outward, lose its pumping geometry, and in some cases fail. Doctors have a Greek name for it now, but the folk knowledge always knew. When love is severed violently, the heart breaks, and the body sometimes breaks with it. The reference beam reading, the heart is not a peripheral pump. It is the body's primary projection engine, and its geometry is load-bearing for everything else the system does. Deform the projection engine, and the projection itself deforms. If your heart is the engine that powers the beam you project to see, and the beam you project to be seen, then most of the so-called soft skills become hard skills. Coherence with the people you love is not optional or sentimental. It is the substrate of clear perception. Time alone in nature is not luxury. It is restoration of the projection engine. Breath practices, meditation, time with animals, presence with children, all of these are restoring the coherent rhythm of the engine that drives how you see, how you connect, and how clearly you are present in your own life. This is what every contemplative tradition has been saying with its hand on its chest. The traditions did not have heart math instruments. They felt it. They knew the heart was where it happens. We just lost the technical name for what they were pointing at. You see with your heart, your eyes are how you aim. What this changes about how you live. A few things rearrange. You stop fighting about whose reality is real. When you and someone you love see something differently, a memory, a conversation, what someone meant, you stop arguing about which one of you is right. Both of you are right. You are both reading the same encoded event from different positions with different projection beams. The encoding is shared. The renderings differ. Once you see this, disagreement stops being a personal injury. It is just what reading from different angles produces. You can compare your renderings, learn from the comparison, and triangulate on the encoding, which is what science, conversation, and intimate relationship are for. You stop dismissing what mystics, saints, and shamans have said. They were not crazy. They were not making it up. They were reporting, I'm so sorry. That call distracted me so much. I'm still, when they reported seeing themselves as light, seeing the unity of all things, seeing through the appearance of separation to the underlying single substrate, they were reporting what their projection beam retrieved when it was operating at high coherence. Across thousands of years, across hundreds of cultures, with no communication between most of them, they have all reported essentially the same architecture. That unanimity is not coincidence, it is data. You start taking your attention seriously. Your attention is your projection beam. When you direct attention towards something, you are literally doing work, projecting energy outward into the substrate. The folk wisdom that you attract what you focus on, what you give attention to grows, where attention goes, energy flows. These are not just slogans. They are imprecise descriptions of the structural fact that you project to see, and what you project at gets illuminated, and what gets illuminated becomes the world you inhabit. You have more responsibility for what your world looks like than the passive camera picture suggested. You are not just receiving the world, you are participating in producing your version of it. You stop being afraid of other people seeing things differently. They are not wrong. They are not crazy. They are projecting from a different position. If you want to understand what they are seeing, the move is not to argue them out of their rendering. It is to invite them to shift their angle just slightly and see what their projection retrieves from the new position. If their angle shifts, their rendering will shift. This is why direct experience, going to the place, doing the practice, sitting with the thing, changes people in ways that argument never does. Direct experience is angle shift. Argument is just insisting from your own angle. You stop being afraid of death. Your projection beam will eventually stop. The configuration of you that is currently doing the projecting will dissolve. But the encoded substrate continues. What you did, what you said, what you contributed, all of it remains in the encoding. The patterns you put into the substrate stay in the substrate, available to be retrieved by other projections in other forms, by other suns who come later. Nothing is lost. The local rendering ends. The substrate it was reading does not end. The work you did during your projection persists in the encoding, and it shapes what future projections retrieve when they look at the same region. You are not separate from the encoding. You are a temporary projection of a substrate that goes on. The fear of being annihilated at death is the artifact of thinking you were ever separate from the substrate in the first place. You never were. You are it, projecting, briefly, into a specific local configuration. When the projection ends, the substrate continues. You continue as the substrate. You start to feel home everywhere, because everywhere you go, you are the son of where you are. Wherever you go, there you are. Everywhere you look, you are projecting. Everywhere you are, the substrate is, and you are reading it. There is no place that is not lit by you in your own rendering the moment you arrive. You bring the light with you. You always have. You will until you stop. You are it. The last thing, if you sit with this and it does not land, if it feels like clever words or weird physics or vaguely spiritual hand-waving, that is fine. The recognition arrives when it arrives. The argument here just describes what the recognition looks like when it happens. But as some part of you reads this and something settles, some quiet, oh, that's what's been going on. That's why moving through space feels the way it feels. That's why looking at someone I love feels like there are two suns recognizing each other. Pay attention to that. That is the substrate recognizing itself through your specific projection. That is your reference beam catching its own reflection in someone else's encoded contribution. The Sanskrit word is namaste. The light in me sees and honors the light in you, or recognizes. That is one sun saying yes to another. You are the sun is you. Every person you have ever loved is also a sun, looking at the same reality with you from their own angle. The reality is one. The renderings are many. The looking is what each of us does. The seeing is the substrate seeing itself through us. That is what is happening right now as you hear this sentence. The substrate is reading itself, listening to itself, seeing itself through your eyes, in your projection, with your reference beam catching what was encoded for this exact angle. You are looking at this sentence. The substrate is looking at itself through you, looking at this sentence, listening to this sentence. There is no inside or outside. There is only the looking, happening as you, in you, of you, by you. You are it. You always were. You always will be. I love you. Namaste.